are you winning and where can you have where's some room for improvement as well, right?
Right.
Anybody else? All right, so let's jump in. So today, let's go back to our Millionaire Real Estate Investor book. Anybody else keeping up with the readings? Any lessons learned? All right, so I will kind of yeah, go ahead.
I'm doing the audiobook, and it's a lot of really good information.
Is there an audio version to the MREI book as well?
Yeah, it's only through Audible though.
Oh wow, that's cool. I didn't know that. That's awesome. I'd love to download it. Cool. Thanks for letting me know. I wasn't even aware there was I think I looked on Amazon at one point. I didn't see it. I don't know. I don't remember seeing it there, so I just kind of gave up on it. Okay, so let's jump back into where we were at. So we're going to read through the book for like, I don't know, 20, 30 minutes or so. And then let's jump back into, and we'll analyze another investment property, right? So on page 99, we're talking about, kind of set the stage here. We're talking about, Gary says, we're all looking to invest. And when you start learning about investment, it's only natural, especially for those of us who are in real estate as a career, that you're going to quickly realize the advantages of real estate investing, right? And on page 99, he's got the Cliff Notes version there. He says, the real estate is accessible, appreciable, leverageable, rentable, improvable, deductible, depreciable, deferrable, stable, and livable, right? So that's all what we're diving into here. Last time we went through page 105. So we'll kind of pick up here. I'll kind of like give you the Cliff Notes of the stuff I highlighted, and then we'll open up and see what you guys thought. So on page 105, this is what stuff I got highlighted. He says, if you ever needed proof that the government wants you to own real estate, look no further than the many tax benefits the government has given it. The three that stand out the most are that it's deductible, depreciable, and deferrable. So let's talk about those. The first D, deductible, reflects the fact that tax law allows various deductions for the normal expenses incurred in owning real estate, such as property upkeep, maintenance, improvements, and even the interest paid on a mortgage. Millionaire real estate investors use these deductions to offset their investment income, and in some cases, their personal income, thus reducing their overall taxes, right? So the next part is that it's depreciable. What's interesting is that not only does tax law allow you to depreciate your investments, it requires it. Simply put, things are presumed to wear out and lose value over time. The government expects you to account for that wear and tear, whether it's actually happening or not. For Ray and Daria and Sharon, who just came in, we're in the MREI book. We're on page 106, and we're just going through these last parts here, and then we're going to analyze another investment today. Okay, so
Thank you.
You're welcome, Daria. Okay, so on page 106, he says it allows millionaire real estate investors love this tax break because it allows them to reduce their taxable income through depreciation, even when a property is increasing in value through appreciation, right? So even as the property is appreciating for tax purposes, they say that the building itself is depreciating over time, and we're allowed to take that write-off. The third D is that it's deferrable. Tax law allows you to use IRAs and 1031 exchanges, which we all know about, to buy and sell investment real estate while deferring the tax hit to a more advantageous time in your life. IRA funds can be invested in real estate, and as long as any profits from rental income or property sales remain in the IRA, those profits are tax deferred. The 1031 exchange gives you a choice at the moment of sale, either to realize the gain and pay taxes on it, or to reinvest that gain in another property and hence defer the taxes. He goes on, taxes deferred until tomorrow are always better than taxes paid today. As a result, they make use of these programs to preserve their profits as they go, giving them more to reinvest and accelerating the growth of their real estate portfolios. When it comes to taxes, there are two kinds of people, consumers and investors. One group avoids planning for taxes, and the other plans for avoiding taxes. One sees doing their taxes as a painful chore that costs them money, and the other views their tax work as a necessary task that saves them money. In the end, the 3Ds, deductible, depreciable, and deferrable, are about reducing your taxable income. No investment does that better than real estate, which offers unprecedented tax advantages, both while you own it and when you sell it. Real estate is also quite stable. It's slow to rise and slow to fall. It doesn't surprise you, and better yet, it doesn't shock you. Statistically, economists rate the volatility of an investment through a measure called the standard deviation, which in this case is the percentage an investment's value will go up or down on average in a given year. From 1973 to 2003, the standard deviation for real estate was 4%. In other words, real estate values fluctuated up or down by only about 4% each year. On a graph, real estate values look like a series of gently rolling hills. In contrast, over the same period of time, the stock market had a standard deviation of 16.8%, which looks more like a jagged electrocardiogram printout. So again, real estate is more stable. And then later on, he goes to say the last thing that makes real estate an able investment is that it is livable. It is quite literally the only investment vehicle that can put a roof over your head. This point is included not for the sake of cuteness, but to make a point that many real estate investors made to us. The home you live in can also be an investment, the second you start thinking of it as one. The trick is to start seeing your home for everything it can be. It's more than just shelter. It's a foundation piece of your financial wealth building program. And lastly, he closes out and says, this discussion is not intended to disparage other investment options. While I've created a lot of wealth through real estate, I've also made great money by investing in business ownership as well as traditional stocks and bonds. I am an investor. I use all these vehicles. Okay. The challenge you may face is that these many advantages of real estate may be overlooked by traditional investment advisors. By the way, quick note on that. If you work with a financial planner or a stock, stockbroker or something like that, they're never, they will rarely recommend you going in real estate, and it's kind of obvious why, because they don't make any money when you invest in real estate. Generally, they make their money when you invest in their portfolios of what they're selling. So hence why real estate can get downplayed a lot of the time. Okay, before we move on to the next section, any comments, questions, concerns about what we just read? Ahas. We just covered all the many advantages.
Yeah, there's one more thing here that the big difference between the stock market and the real estate market is that stock market is called efficient market, and real estate is called inefficient market. That means that in the stock market, everybody's equal. That means technically you can't really buy it at a different price than everybody else is. But in a real estate market, depending on what you can, who you have as your agent,
Yeah.
who your relationships are with, you can get a better price or you can get a different price. And what it means is that you can actually increase the value of your property by doing an upgrade of what is called a forced equity into it.
Yeah.
Which in the stock market, you can't do that. You cannot increase the price of the value unless you do insider trading.
Right.
So that's what the big difference is.
Absolutely. That's a great point. That's a great point. And I did not know that about efficient versus inefficient. So thanks for teaching all of us. Anybody else? Ahas, lessons learned, the advantages of investing in real estate. All right, well, let's move on then. On page 110, the next section we're going to go over is think value, opportunity, and deals. He says almost anything worth doing has a process, skips ahead and says, you have to, so in real estate, the process is, we have to know the value, then we find the opportunity, and then we make the deals. That figure 17 on page 111. You have to know values in order to recognize the opportunities, and you have to find opportunities before you can do deals. You can't really make a deal until you have found an opportunity, and you can't really know if it's an opportunity until you understand value. It's that simple. So then he goes on to say, successful real estate investing begins with identifying value. How do investors identify value? That's easy. They look at real estate. They look at a lot of real estate. They look very carefully at a lot of real estate. I wish I could tell you there was a shortcut, but there's not. And I caution you against trying to create one. When you are starting to learn the value of real estate in an area, you will need to look at a lot of real estate. And as you carefully begin to get a sense of what people are asking, what people are willing to pay, then you gain a sense of market value, what's worth what. This applies to both sales price and rental rates. These are the two big variables in the value equation. The more you look at properties, the more your sense of value becomes accurate and internalized, right? So we don't even have to think about it anymore. We just start knowing what things are worth, right? If any of you guys have a farm, you know that pretty quickly. I mean, all you got to do is just go through the hot sheet every day on your farm. And you don't even have to, it's not like you work at it. You just, sometimes I like to do my hot sheet and I say it out loud. Like, oh, check it out. 123 Main Street sold for 107, 1.075 million or whatever it is. And then just over time, like at first, when you're brand new in real estate, you're like, oh my God, what these numbers just are all like random numbers. But then over time, like it doesn't take long before you start to like recognize like, oh, like, I used to do a lot in North Redondo. So like I see a 2 in a lot, 1.2 million, or what, like you just start recognizing right away, like you just start knowing the value of stuff. And that's what we're talking about. This way, when you come upon an available property, you'll be able to determine quickly what price will make that property worth pursuing. This is where opportunity shows up. Every opportunity is not necessarily a deal. What turns an opportunity into a deal is that the property meets your criteria and the seller is willing to meet your terms. All right. Any questions on that about the whole value, opportunity, and deals, which is why we're going to start to more and more be calculating, going through the spreadsheet and analyzing properties. I want to be doing at least one every week when we meet up. Make sense, everybody?
Ed, I like the bottom page 111, the quote, beginning investors' biggest mistake is that they don't do their homework. I mean, it's so true. You got to do your research and ask the questions and do your homework.
Yes.
I mean, that's the key to find those opportunities and find the value.
Yeah. Yep. That's funny. I didn't even see that quote. That's such a great one. Beginning investors' biggest mistake is that they don't do their homework. So true. Good stuff. Anybody else? Ahas? All right. The next point we're making here is think action. Point number 7 on 112. He talks about his dad getting screwed on a parking lot deal with the city. But let's skip ahead. He says, impatience or worse, confusion can lead you down a path from which you may not be able to recover. When it comes to making money, I think most people don't realize that they too are impatient and confused. What they're confused about is what it really means to be an investor. As a result, they may never take action, or if they do, they take the kind of confused action that can lead to financial disaster, like his dad did, right? He talked about his dad investing and never was able to recover from that, never did more real estate investing. Millionaire real estate investors are not confused. They understand that investing requires action. More important, they also understand that successful investing requires the right action. That's what we mean when we say that millionaire real estate investors think action. He talks about, moving on, it became clear that those who had become the most successful had at some point made a crucial decision. They decided to take action. They said to themselves, I know enough to know I'm headed in the right direction. I need to get started and then keep learning as I go. Those investors understood that investing in real estate is without a doubt a game of acquired knowledge and, more importantly, a game of knowledge acquired over time. They also knew that no reading list and no seminar schedule could equip them for the task. Some things are learned or refined through doing, right? So there's that balance, right? Because we don't want to just jump in and make some awful mistake like his dad, but we also don't want to sit on the sidelines half of our life, being a professional student, right? This is not a come to wealth, working on wealth class and be here for 10 years, becoming an amazing student of real estate investing. This is a practical thing of what we're all going to be, trying to jump into as soon as possible. Okay, and then he talks about on page 114, there's 4 investment profiles. You got your investor who loves opportunity, who buys the right thing, collectors who love ownership and like to buy something, the speculator who loves the action and buys anything. We're going to talk, I got a great one for that. We're going to talk about that in a minute. and then the observer who loves ideas and buys nothing. Let's dive into these a little bit. I don't want to spend too much time here, but we'll dive in a bit. So most people who are, in our world are observers. Observers love the idea of investing, but out of fear, they buy nothing. Speculators, they love the action and in their impatience may buy anything. Collectors love ownership and for self-gratification buy something, but investors love opportunity and in their wisdom buy the right thing. Now he goes on to talk about observers. That's pretty self-explanatory. And then he talks about speculators. And this has been on my mind a lot lately, speculation. So again, the trouble is that speculation is by definition a matter of taking above average risks in the hope of achieving above average returns. It's buying something on the basis of its potential selling price rather than its actual value. Look it up. Speculators bet on the come. And he goes on to talk about this story about how, Amsterdam in the in the 1600s, right? We don't go into that now, but it's again speculation. People buying stuff on what they think it will be worth, not because it's actually worth something. People were making fortunes in tulips, but it's not like tulips have an intrinsic value that makes them worth so much money, right? People were selling options on tulips and stuff. It's crazy. Anybody want to take a guess what's a current perfect example of a speculation market that's been hitting for the last couple of years?
Crypto?
Crypto. Totally crypto. And by the way, I'm not saying you shouldn't have some crypto in your portfolio, whatever, but I'm saying if we look at it, it is definitely a speculation market. Crypto is not worth shit. Oh, excuse my language, but it has no intrinsic value. It's only the value that people place on it in and of itself. We're just assuming that it's going to go up on value for absolutely no reason that we just think more and more people are going to want it. There's no true formula for why people should want more of it a year from now than they do right now. It's a completely speculative market. Anybody disagree with that? I'm going on a limb. That's my opinion. Yeah, anybody disagree?
Ed, it's like monopoly money.
Totally. And by the way, I know some people who are like super into crypto and have made a ton of money doing it, but I just, I think it's speculation. And I'm just, if I had a bunch of extra money, would I spend a little bit on some Bitcoin? Sure, why not? But I'm just not, I'd rather spend more of it on stuff that I can control and I can understand and I can touch and has value. And not that everything has to like be tangible to have value, but it's just one that I just don't see why more, why it should, there's no formula as to how much it's going to increase in value and why. I've never been able to understand that. I could be wrong. I'm not that smart. So some of you guys may know more and think I'm crazy.
No, I disclaimer, I don't invest into cryptos, just to let you know. But the bottom line is that most people invest to things that there is a general trust within that investment. For example, real estate or stock market or gold or anything else. If there's not a general trust, it has no basis. It could really fall apart. Now, having said that, what's happening right now is that Bitcoin is becoming more trustable than it was before.
Yeah, that's a good point.
So if somebody has done everything else, they have their real estate, they have their stocks and bonds and everything else, and they have extra money, and if they want to put into it, it's just a small portion of it just to see how it does, it's okay. But for somebody that doesn't have all the bases covered and wants to go into that, that's a big mistake.
Sure, that's a great point. And by the way, let me make another point too, is that if you want to use Bitcoin because you want to do a transaction and you want to make the transaction using Bitcoin or whatever, and you're going to buy some, for whatever reason, and you're using Bitcoin as a monetary value, right? Like as a monetary unit, that I can see. Like you're not investing in Bitcoin. You're just using Bitcoin at that point, right? You're just using it to make a transaction. I can see reasons why you want to do that. Whatever. I want to send, I have an uncle in, Siberia in Russia, and I want to send him some money. Maybe it's easier for me to send him via Bitcoin than by trying to exchange value or whatever. I'm just saying there may be some reason to do it that for that purpose, but to just buy a bunch of Bitcoin and sit on it with the expectation it's going to go up in value, that to me seems like a speculative market. All right, but let's move on. 'Cause again, this is like this is Ed's opinion, not Gary Keller's opinion. And I think we can all agree that Gary Keller is a far more who we should be studying than Ed's opinion. All right, so we'll move on here. Yeah, it says the story has played out time and again in markets where prospects for quick and apparently endless appreciation have encouraged speculators to put down real money for products with artificially inflated values they had no desire or ability to hold for the long term. All right. Then he goes on to talk about collectors, which I thought this was really interesting. A collector is simply someone who buys things on the basis of their emotional value rather their investment value, right? And then he goes on to talk about investors. We're a breed apart. Unlike observers, we take action. Unlike speculators, we minimize risk. Unlike collectors, we buy on the basis of investment value. Investors like us, we're defined by our expectation for financial gain and the process they follow to minimize financial risk. They make it their practice to study and know market value, and then they go out to find assets priced below that value. They don't count on appreciation to bail them out. They make their money going in. Again, they don't count on appreciation to bail them out. Now, not to say that we're not going to factor in some appreciation in our, but even if something didn't appreciate, we should be able to invest in it and it should still work out just fine. We're not counting on the appreciation, right? Like a bargain hunter, they find as much joy in the search for a bargain as in the transaction itself. Because they think and act like investors, they tend to achieve excellent returns on those investments while exposing themselves to little or no risk. Investors follow a straight and narrow path, straight in that they move from knowledge to action, and narrow in that they minimize risk and maximize return. It's a way of thinking and a way of acting. This is the true north of the financial wealth builder, the investor. He goes on to say, like, and this goes back to what David was saying, with a certain amount of wealth, your options increase. One sees this with successful investors. They may move a little to the left or the right of the narrow investment path, but they've earned that right. They can afford to do a little speculating, right? We're talking about buying Bitcoin or what's some other speculative market right now, whatever, invest in, people, I always love these investors because they get to invest in, like, once you've got your like $1 million portfolio, sure, you can spend, $5,000 and invest it in some like crazy tech company that is like a, one step short of a lottery ticket. But that's, that you've earned the right to have a little bit of that kind of stuff in your repertoire, right? Okay, at the bottom 118, he says, millionaire real estate investors are not the kind to get lost on the sidelines. They watch the game unfold, and as soon as they feel they understand what's going on, they dive in and play. They think action, they take action. Okay, and then he talks about Nina's rule. We'll cover this quickly because then we're done with the chapter and we can start analyzing an investment for the day. He says, so Nina's this personal trainer friend of his who talks about how when she starts meeting with people, she has them work on posture as opposed to like exercise. I thought that was fascinating, right? To restate Nina's rule in the context of personal wealth, your ability to build financial wealth is determined as much by your everyday, quote, financial posture as by your not everyday big financial decisions. I'm talking about the unconscious and seemingly inconsequential spending decisions you make on a daily basis. These little decisions set the stage for your big decisions and their habit forming. Most people don't make this connection. Warren Buffett, who put it best when he said there is a tendency with small decisions to think you can do them for not very good reasons. The truth is that as an investor, all your financial decisions, big or small, should be for good reasons. In the context of this book, you need to develop the financial posture of a millionaire real estate investor, the unconscious habits that guide you all day, every day. This doesn't necessarily mean you're actively working on your investments all the time. What it does mean is that you always have the mental habits of an investor. It shows up in how you manage your money and how you look for opportunity each and every day. Here's what I want you to begin to do in the grocery store, at the gas station. Basically, anytime you find yourself with a credit card in your hand, I want you to do two things. First, say to yourself, I'm an investor, not a consumer. Remember, we talked about that early on. Second, ask yourself, is this the best use for my money? Am I using my money like an investor or like a consumer? Nina's rule not only applies to your spending habits, it's also about building the mental habit of always being on the lookout for opportunities for investment. This is not just a once a month or once a week activity. It's an everyday posture. It's always being alert for investment opportunities and consistently letting others know that you are. It's about top of the mind awareness. It's about the everyday posture of an investor. Just as your physical posture leads to physical health, your financial posture will lead to financial wealth. And with that, we wrap up the chapter. All right, we'll open it up one last time. What do we got? Ahas. What have we learned? Anybody?
You know, Ed, coming from a gym background, I like the last part of the Nina's rule about the posture. You know, I was a sales manager for 24 Hour Fitness, a variety of different gyms, and I would, personal trainers were always my partners in the business. And, when it comes to habits and developing good habits in the gym, the posture is part of the core area of the human body. And they always told me, they gave me the analogy of an apple. You cut open the apple, and in the middle, if you see the core is good and it's ripe, that means the rest of the apple is good, correct? If you look at if you cut open an apple where it's brown in the middle, it's the rest of the apple is bad. You know what I mean? So the metaphor of the posture where they talk about, with the human body and health, and the same metaphor can be used for financial posture and being able to develop that habit, and everything else comes from it, if that makes sense.
Yeah, I love that. Yeah, that makes a lot of sense.
Yeah,
Anybody
that was
else?
good. That was great. Yeah.
I agree, definitely. I don't know if all of you know, but some of you know that I do teach Pilates, and posture is everything. And when you walk into a room, it's all about presentation. And when you do stand taller and more confident, people take you more seriously and they pay more attention. And it does come from the core. So like you were saying, and also an investment property, you really have to look at the core, because if that isn't strong, everything else will crumble. And that's for sure. And that's what I teach in my side business, which is Pilates. It starts with the core. It starts with the spine. So yeah, it definitely resonated with me as well.
Very cool. I love that.
I was going to say, and Sharon, I mean, you being an instructor, I mean, obviously that's the foundation. Am I right? Everything revolves around the core, and as far as, and that way you'll have more efficient yoga poses. Am I right?
Yes, you're absolutely right. Everything comes from the core. If you look at surfers, their core strength is unbelievable, but they're using their legs. Visually you think it's their legs, but it's really coming from the core. Once you have that strength, the rest of the body will follow. So you're absolutely right.
Yeah.
Very cool, you guys. Anybody else? Lessons learned from this chapter of what we read in the book so far?
Yes, I want to add also what stood out to me was take action, which means don't overthink, don't wait for perfection, just start.
Yeah.
And the moment you start, you're just going to get ideas and, like one step at a time, and then you can move towards the main goal. But you've got to take action and start it. So no wait and overthink too much.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
That's wonderful, Daria. Absolutely. Absolutely. I love that.
Thank you.
Anybody else? Lessons learned, things that stood out to you?
Also, I'll just say one last thing on the page 114. On page 114, the 4 investment profile, the box there where I was saying to myself when I was reading the part of the speculators, you know, as far as they're the high rollers, the thrill seekers, the lottery lovers, and the gamblers. It just reminded me back in my days in Vegas, you know, or I've lost my fair share of money. And I said, okay, I used to be a speculator investor, where I've lost some money. I've lost some money in the past. So, you know, it's just funny. I could say I used to be a speculator investor. You know, I always say that they didn't build that the MGM Lion there. That was, I donated that. So they're at the MGM hotel. So, yeah.
I love it. Good stuff. Anybody else? Lessons learned? Ahas, things that stood out to you in what we've been reading so far in the book? All right, well, let's have some fun. We still have some time here. Let's pick another property to analyze. And by the way, I would love if anybody wants to, if there's a property that you're considering, or like Ray did when we did a couple weeks ago, if you have a property that you're considering, or a property that you have bought or whatever, and you want, like, I would love for us to all look at some real life scenarios. I mean, that's what it's all about, right? So maybe next time we'll have someone else, you know, if we all want to pick one property to analyze, and let's all use the same tool so that we're all speaking the same language. Not that this is necessarily the only tool or the best tool, just that way we all, you know, get used to using the same tool so it's easier for us to speak with each other, right? How about next week, somebody else, you know, I mean, I'll do it if no one else wants, but I would love for someone else to do it and just like walk us through this investment, pick a property and analyze it, and then bring it next week and share your screen and show your Excel, you know, show your spreadsheet on it, maybe share it on the Facebook page before class, and we'll all print it out and let's look at it and say, like, you know, you give us your, you know, not just my take, but somebody else do it and say, this is my take on this investment, just for kicks, right? For fun. Sound good? All right, so let's pick a property here. Let me share my screen. We're going to do this one together. And really what I'd love to do is, like, in the future, maybe we'll have like once a month where we meet in person. I don't know if that's possible, like, because I know we're all pretty spread out around LA, but if that's possible, once a month, even once every other month, to meet up in person, and we'll all bring a bunch of properties that we've been looking at and just share them in person. Because it's so much easier when you like have all the sheets printed out and everyone can look at them and be like, oh, you know, this one looks like a great one on paper, right? All right, so I digress. Here, let me share my screen. Let's go to the MLS. Here we go. Read this. Okay, I'm just logging in here. Does anybody have a property that you'd like us to take a look at? If not, I'll pick one at random. I'll tell you this. Anybody got a city that they want me to look at? Let's look somewhere. Where should we look at?
Ed, can we look in Torrance?
Torrance, bam. Got it.
More like fake Torrance, not city of Torrance.
Say it again.
I'm talking fake Torrance by the 110. It's city of LA technically.
Okay, hold on. Do you know what? Here, let me do this. So where am I looking at?
I want to say
Where-
maybe 90504, maybe, or 90502.
For zip code 90502, whatever you want, either one. 90504.
Sure.
And what do you want to look at? Do you want to look at duplexes and quadplexes, or you want to look at single family home?
I want to lean towards duplexes. Yeah, and I was curious about
All right, so let me
the
do this.
returns. Yeah.
I'll do residential income. We'll go 90504. Let's do one that's active, since might as well. Let's have some fun with it. Let's find something that's active right now. Let's see, there's one match. Let's see what we got here. What is this? 3-unit property that has been on the market. How many days has it been on the market? Where am I looking? Where's days on the market? I just recently changed MLSs again, so I forgot where everything is. It's been on the market 10 days. Let's see, what do we got going on here? Let's look at some pictures here. Oh, wait, hold on, you don't see those when they come up. Okay, you guys are seeing the pictures, right?
Mm-hmm.
Well, inside looks fairly clean. There's nothing.
Nice closet.
Not exactly.
The air quote bedroom.
Right. But this is under $1 million, 3 units. All right, so let's all right, so let's open up our spreadsheet here. So let me do this. As you guys know, I have to print it out. I can't seem to ever. All right, I won't do it. I won't print it out. I'll just. All right, so let me close that screen and now let me go over here. All right, so where am I at? Give me a second. Everything goes slow while I've got a Zoom running. It's opening up Excel. Okay, here we go. So here's our, let me share my screen. Okay, here's our template. Let's take a look at this 3-unit property. Let's see what we think. All right, so here's this. All right, so now let's start plugging in some numbers. The list price is, all right, so on. Just so we all know what we're talking about, this is going to be 3536 West 168th Street, and that is in Torrance. This is for Miguel. My client Miguel is thinking about buying this property.
Absolutely. Only if the wife approves.
We're going to say 0% discount. So let's see if at market value, I mean, at list price, what we think of it as an investment. All right, so let's clear this all out. All right. So again, let's see if we can put 25% down. That's kind of my benchmark. I like to do 25% down, 30-year fixed, 3.5%, just because that way I kind of know those numbers. Not that you have to buy it this way, but just when you analyze, I just kind of always like to use that as my default staple. Everybody okay with that?
Sounds good.
Not that you have to, I mean, no one, I don't even know if that's like the right way of doing it. I just have always done it that way. So maybe we'll learn later on in the book that that's not the way to do it. I don't know. Okay, so first thing we want to do here is what do we think it's going to cost to repair this property? You guys saw the pictures, even although briefly. Do we think it's going to cost anything to make this property ready to rent it out?
It looks like it's in pretty decent shape.
And honestly, I mean, you might want to put in a new lawn at some point, but I don't think you need to do that now. And it's got tenants in place. So let's just look at it with the tenants that are in there right now, right? Okay, so so we're going to say no, 0 to fix it up to repair it. You know what? Hold on. You're always going to put something into it. Let's say 10,000. Is everyone okay if I do that? Because I just know that when you're through escrow, you're probably going to find something. You're like, you know what? I'll just fix that now. Maybe less than that, but let's give ourselves a little cushion and say that it needs a little bit of repairs. Okay, the actual current rents. Oh, I love this. I love how the current rents are way lower, and then the pro formas are like way jacked up. But I guess it must be like under rent control or something. All right, so we say 1,000 and 1,600. There's our current rents on the property. We've got $3,600 a month coming in rent. Now we're assuming this is for us as real estate agent. Like let's assume Miguel buys this for himself. So he's going to do his own property management. He's going to do his own leasing costs, right? So nothing to find the tenants, nothing to manage it. He's going to do it all himself. And now let's say, how much do we put in maintenance per year? What, $1,000 a year?
Go 5%.
Well, let's just, rather than a percentage, I need a dollar amount for maintenance reserve.
Sure, 1,000 a month or 1,000 a year.
1,000 a year. Everybody agree? Does everybody think is that a safe number to use? $1,000 a year? What do you guys like that number? Is that low, high?
I don't know, it might be a little low.
Okay, what's the age of the building?
Building was built in 1954. It's an older building, and it looks like it's probably going to need a new roof before too long. I mean, it's hard to tell from the photos, but just assuming it looks like, yeah.
And our maintenance reserves, is that Could that also be considered CapEx? Maybe
No.
put some aside for, no.
I mean, I say no.
This is money that we assume is gonna cover repairs. The amount of money that goes in here should equal the amount of money we spend. That's our best guess at how much are we gonna be spending on repairs, right?
So we're talking like plumbing or electrical fixes and
Yeah,
things.
new roof, I mean, anything. It could be anything under the sun that's gonna need somebody to go out there and fix it. Like, what do we think that's gonna add up to every year?
That's
And we
a
need
lot
it
more
towards-
than 1,000 a year.
Now, I know David has that great strategy where he just gets a home warranty and that covers a lot, not everything, but it'll cover a lot.
Not on the duplexes or multifamily. You can't do that.
Oh, really? So, okay, that's good to see. We're learning from each other. Okay, so what do you guys say, 1,500, 2,000?
Sounds good.
I'll say 1,500. Let's be. Now utilities, now you shouldn't need to have utilities. And what about, hold on, before up here on vacancy, do we think we can keep this thing rented out 24/7 without any vacancy? I think that's probably a pretty safe bet, but does anybody want to put in any other number in here for a safety?
Go 5% just in case.
Can you do that? And then utilities, we shouldn't need to put any money into utilities, but if we have a tenant who's missing for a long time, we may have to cover utilities. Property taxes, let's see. So what's our property tax gonna be on this property? Was that like
12,500.
Yeah, I was gonna say about 1,000 a month. Yeah, a little over 1,000 a month, 12,000. Yeah.
there you go. And David, you know more about insurance than me. Do you want to take a guess at insuring this property as a landlord per year for 3 units?
Okay, what's the square footage?
1993.
Yep.
Maybe about $1,200.
Per year?
Yeah.
Whoa. All right, and then I don't believe there's any other additional expenses, but let me see if they've got anything listed here. It may turn out that during the escrow period, we find out that there's like a separate trash fee, or, you know, maybe the water is not metered. So the landlord have to cover water, whatever it is. Let's leave this blank now, but know that may turn out to be different. So here's what we know right off the bat. At 25% down, assuming that all our numbers are correct, and again, that's part of what the escrow period is for, is to double check and triple check all of our numbers to keep making sure that they're more and more accurate. But right now, if we were to put 25% down, we would be losing $14,000, assuming all of our numbers are correct, we're losing $14,000 a year on this property. Now, again, you could put down 40% down. Oh, look at that, you're still losing money. 50% down, still losing money. 55% down. This is crazy. There's no way I'm putting 55% down on a real estate investment. There's just no way.
Would it make sense to bring down that purchase or the offer price just because the rents are so far under market? Instead of putting more down, would you just take some off of the offer price?
If you can.
Because let's do this. Let's look at, all right, let's leave it at 25%. What price would you need to be at for this thing to at least be cash flow negative? Just, I mean, at least be break even. So let's see, if you did 800,000, you're still losing money. 750, still losing money.
Wow.
I think we need to pick another property.
Well, and now we know why. Now we know why it's been on the market for 10 days and hasn't just flown off the shelf. And in fact,
kick the tenants out.
you would need to be at approximately $600,000 if you wanted to put 25% down and be just break even. So that's just not going to work. So here's one lesson that let me tell you something I'm seeing, and you guys, again, this is not the part where I read out of the book and we all, you know, I'm kind of leading us in the learning. That part's done. This is just me as, you know, one of us in the investor group. One thing that I am seeing is that you got to be really careful in investing in California with rent control, because if you got a place like this where the rents are really low, like, how are you going to recover from this until somebody moves out of there, right? Am I right in saying that? Is there a way to get them out of there?
You can go cash for keys if you had the cash. And if they were willing to leave.
But they have to be willing to do cash for keys. Is that right? I don't know cash for keys very well. I don't know California investing really all that well yet.
Yeah, from what I understand, from what I've heard, if they pretty much have to be willing, you can't say here's 25 grand or here's 10 grand.
Why don't we do this? Hey, maybe for next week, let me see if I can find a guest speaker to talk to us about cash for keys and evictions and all that kind of stuff. Ironically, we just had a speaker here. I wasn't able to make it. I was out of the office. Here at KW South Bay, we just had someone talking about exactly that, the eviction moratorium, but just more specifically, cash for keys and all that kind of stuff. But let me see if I can find someone to guest speak next week, and we'll have them teach us about, what do you do if you need, how can you, if you're in rent control, what are your options as far as, do you have any options?
Actually, on October 28th, there is a webinar on rent control from, let me take a look. It's from
South Bay.
South Bay Association. So if you want to learn about that, that would be the good webinar to listen to.
Fantastic. Thanks, David. Thanks for that information. So, hey, David, would you mind kind of like figuring out the details on that and then sharing it on the Facebook page?
Or do you want me to listen to it and then share it, or do you want me to?
No. I just mean
webinar?
just the information as far as just even a link on to where to get more information on it.
Sure.
Or the schedule, just post the schedule of that,
Yeah. Just anything about that, because that's something I definitely want to learn more about. Because I mean, in doing this little exercise the last few weeks or so, it just makes you realize, like, man, like that's a big risk when you're investing in California. Is like, you get some people in there and not to say that they're doing anything wrong or illegal, but just if they don't want to move and they stay there 10, 20 years, your rent is not going to appreciate in line with how much it could, right?
Yeah.
Because I mean,
I'm sorry.
Just really quick, I'll just say, because we all have the option, we could invent in Nevada or Arizona, which is still pretty drivable from here, like in a pinch, if or like some other folks have said, like Tennessee or Denton, in Texas or some of these places. And let me tell you, the is way more landlord friendly, which gives a distinct advantage. So I'm not saying I would never invest in California, but I would just need to learn more about these limitations and make sure you're never going to get in a situation where you're screwed because of the rent control laws. Let me tell you, I mean, there's some folks who have tenants who haven't paid rent in since COVID began, and I don't know how the hell that's going to get solved. But what do you do if you're a landlord and you've got somebody who's just not paying rent because of COVID? And again, I'm not blaming the tenant for doing that. I'm not saying they're doing anything wrong. It's hate the game, not the player, right? It's just the rules are kind of very disadvantageous to landlords right now. Anyways, I don't mean to go on a soapbox here, but that's kind of one thing I'm seeing, and I'm just like, wow, that's interesting. Anybody else, lessons learned and all that kind of stuff?
Ed, I just want to mention, so last week in our team meeting, the lawyer's name was Dennis Block. He's the one that came on, and he spoke, and he was very, very informative. I mean, talking about the eviction moratoriums and like Miguel just talked about cash for keys. I think Simon has a relationship with him or his organization, but the guy's brilliant. Been in the business for like 40 plus years, 50 years. So, it would be great if we could have him on, or maybe another lawyer representative of his company. I'm sure he's super slammed and busy, but
Yeah. Well, that's super cool. If nothing else, let me share the recording from last week's team meeting, and I'll put a link to that on and I don't think you have to be in KW South Bay. Any of us can access it, but let me put the link on there, and we'll start there. I mean, maybe we'll watch that segment of the team meeting next week for anybody who didn't already see it. 'Cause, I mean, honestly, I would like to learn more. I'm kind of ignorant about all that.
Yeah, there's a
definitely-
YouTube, there's a YouTube video of him talking to AOA, which is about an hour long. That has the complete information of it was done on September 30th, the last day.
Yeah.
So that's the best one to look at. I can put a link on that on the Facebook
Yeah.
page.
David, that would be fantastic. I mean, I personally am totally interested and want to look at it myself. So hopefully some of the other guys here want to learn that as well, but yeah. All right, so yeah, does anybody want, I don't know if we should have like somebody volunteer. Does somebody want to volunteer to analyze a property for next week? Pick one out, roll with it, tell us what you think. And then
Can I say
we'll-
something here?
Yeah,
Can I
go
say
ahead.
something here? I've been looking at all these properties around here for the past few months. If you're looking for any of these properties to cash flow, zero. None of them. So don't waste your time.
Yeah.
These are for the people who are actually not looking for cash flow, looking for appreciation. So you really need to figure out what is your objective. Are you looking to get cash flow? If you are, don't waste your time. None of them do.
You know, David, I got kind of a question on that. Oh, you can go ahead.
Oh, sorry. Just a quick question. It's on topic, but off topic. If anyone can refer me to a commercial real estate attorney, drop it in the message box or message me directly. I'm kind of in a scenario with a lease right now personally. And it's interesting because the property is being sold. I have a lease on the property, my family does, and our lease is actually below market value. So I'm actually digging into all of this stuff. Our lease is solid, but we're getting all sorts of phone calls right now. So I need to find someone legally so that can have. So if anyone knows, please drop a reference for me.
Hey, Sharon, which market center are you in?
Say that again?
Which market center are you in? Which office?
I'm in Calabasas.
Okay, so ask many Attias will probably know somebody. I will CC him and you on a text message, and let me ask him if he knows of somebody.
Oh, okay. I have his number. I can definitely text message him for sure.
I mean,
Yeah,
he will undoubtedly know of somebody. So yeah, that's where I would go first.
okay, perfect. I'm gonna ask him. Yeah, because it's getting hairy and it's getting crazy because people want to buy this property and the land itself is worth the price, but you know, we've got this solid lease and you know, for about 20 years. So it's listening to the what we're talking about as investment property. It kind of resonates with me too. To commercial.
Yeah. Right. By the way, Alexander, who's on the call in the chat message, she said she's got somebody, which reminds me, we have a few new faces here today. Forgive me for not including you earlier, but there's a Facebook group that corresponds to this little investor group that we got going on here. In the chat bar, I'm going to put the link. So I think Alexander and Muhammad, I don't know if either of you guys are a part of it, but if you're not already a part of the Facebook group that corresponds to this investor group, just click on this link here that I just put in the chat bar and request to join. And as soon as I see you, I'll accept it. But we have a little Facebook group going on with us too. By the way, we do have to wrap this up because I got a 4 o'clock, but be thinking about this too. I want to change the name of our little investor group and come up with something a little more fun and I don't know, more catchy than working on wealth. So, because I want to think of us, I don't want to think of us as like a class people go to. I want to think of us as an investor group where we all share stuff and learn together and trade ideas and all that kind of stuff. So if you haven't, be thinking about that and we'll, you know, in the next week or two, let's come up with a different name together, all of us.
Awesome.
I'm happy to make a new graphic if we need it.
Awesome, Sharon. Hey, well, it's, you know,
Sounds great. I'm gonna be thinking.
good stuff. All right, guys. Well, have a wonderful week. Increase your net worth and all that good stuff. And we'll be back here next week. We'll continue the journey.
All right.
Thanks, guys.
Take care.
Hi, thank you.
Bye.
Bye.